Ridge, Taylor's voice quiver, but there was fire beneath it, a raw edge cutting through the silence. You cannot do this. You can't marry her. Her words hung in the air, carrying the weight of everything unspoken between them. She took a step forward, her hands quivering at her sides and her fingers curling into fists, as if to keep herself together. I am begging you. Do not do this to me. Don't do this to us. Ridge's gaze softened for a moment, a flash of the man who had once promised her forever, but it vanished as swiftly as it appeared. He ran his hand through his hair, a motion so familiar that Taylor's chest hurt. Taylor, we've been through this, he replied, his voice low and almost soft yet forceful. Brooke and I are doing things differently this time. I am in love with her. I've made my decision. The word struck Taylor like a physical blow, knocking the air from her lungs. She staggered back a step, her hand reflexively grabbing her chest as if to prevent her heart from breaking. No, she said quietly, shaking her head as her golden hair fell in waves over her face. No, Ridge, you don't understand. You have no idea what this is doing to me. Her voice trembled and the tears she'd worked so hard to hold back flowed forth, tracing lines down her cheeks. If you marry her, I'll die. I mean it, Ridge. I will die. The pronouncement hung between them, raw and unfiltered, like a scream. Ridge halted, his gaze fixed on hers, looking for something, truth perhaps, or the depth of her anguish. For a moment, the room was silent except for the faint ticking of the antique clock on the mantel. Taylor's chest heaved, her breathing shallow and uneven, as she waited for him to say anything to bring her back from the brink. But Ridge did not move. He didn't reach for her or close the distance between them. Instead, he averted his attention to the floor, and even that simple move felt like a betrayal. Taylor, he finally murmured, his voice full of sadness. You don't mean that. You are stronger than this. You have always been stronger than this. Stronger? Taylor laughed bitterly, piercing through the air like a blade. Do you think this is about strength? Do you think I am standing here spilling my heart out because I am weak? She took another stride toward him, her eyes burning, the tears giving way to something more savage. I've loved you for decades, Ridge. I've given you everything. My heart, my life, and my children. I've stood by you through every mistake, every betrayal, and every time you turned back to her. The word her was venomous, carrying the weight of years of rivalry and misery. And now what? You are going to choose Brooke again? After what we've been through? Ridge's jaw tightened and he returned her look, his own eyes clouded with turmoil. It's not about choosing her over you, he continued, his voice firm but strained. It's about what's best for me. For my future. Brooke and I have discovered something real this time. Something that will last. Taylor's voice rose incredulously. Nothing with Brooke will last, Ridge. You are aware of this. She's a storm, a whirlwind that rips through everything, leaving nothing but destruction in her wake. How many times have you gone back to her, thinking it will last forever only to be broken again? How many times have I been the one picking up the pieces? Ridge shuddered, the truth of her words sinking in, but he did not back down. It's not fair, Taylor. Brooke has changed. I have changed. Have we changed? Taylor's voice was a whisper now, yet it was more powerful than a roar. You have not changed, Ridge. You're still the man who can't let go of her, no matter how much it destroys everything else around you. She paused, her gaze searching his face for the man she'd fallen in love with all those years ago. Do you see me anymore? Do you realize what this is doing to me? Ridge's quiet was sufficient, and it broke something within her. Taylor turned away, her hands covering her face as she fought to control her breathing. The room felt too cramped, too hot, and full of memories she couldn't shake. She could still see them in her mind, frozen moments in time like snapshots. Ridge stared at her as if she were the only woman in the world on the day they married. They'd spent the nights conversing until dawn, planning for a future that appeared so clear. The birth of their children, laughing and love. And now it was all sliding away like a thread that had been pulled too tightly. I can't do this again, she replied quietly. I can't bear watching you choose her over me, over our family, over everything we made. She returned to him, her eyes begging, devoid of all pride. Ridge, I ask you, marry me. Choose me. Just this once, choose me. The words hung in the air, frail and desperate, like a lifeline tossed into the nothingness. Ridge's expression softened, and Taylor felt she caught a glimpse of doubt, a break in his determination. He made a step toward her, his hand reaching out to touch her, but then he paused, his hand returning to his side. "Taylor," he added, his voice full of emotion, "I care about you. I always will. You are the mother of my children, and that means everything to me. But my heart is with Brooke now. I'm sorry." The words cut deep into Taylor's chest. She lurched back, holding the edge of a nearby table for support. "Are you sorry?" she repeated, her voice empty. "Is that all you have to say? Are you sorry?" Ridge turned away again, unable to face her stare. "I never wanted to hurt you," he added quietly. "I never wanted it to come to this." "But it has," Taylor responded, her voice quivering. "It always does. And I'm the one who pays the price." She stood up, wiping her tears away with a shaking palm. "Do you know what, Ridge? I am done. I am done begging. I'm done hoping to see you. But heed my words. If you marry her, it will destroy me. And if that happens, you'll have to deal with it." She turned and strode for the door, her strides wobbly but determined. Ridge called after her, his voice filled with fear. "Taylor, wait." But she did not pause. She could not. If she looked back, she would disintegrate, and she had already given him too much of herself to risk losing what little she had left. The door closed behind her with a quiet click, but Taylor heard the end of everything. The Los Angeles sun pounded down on the huge estate as Taylor made her way to her car. Her hands shook as she struggled for her keys, her vision clouded by tears. She slipped into the driver's seat and grasped the steering wheel with white knuckles. For a moment she simply sat there, staring at nothing, the weight of Ridge's words weighing down on her like a physical force. She had meant what she said. Taylor couldn't face the thought of Ridge marrying Brooke and building a life with her rival. It wasn't just jealousy or sadness. It was the destruction of all she'd fought for and believed in. Through years of tumult and pain, her love for Ridge served as an anchor and constancy. To lose him now to Brooke was like losing herself. But Taylor refused to give up completely. Under the pain and tears, a spark of rebellion flashed. She'd been through worse: betrayals, losses, moments when the world seemed to collapse around her. Despite everything, she managed to build a life, a job, and a family. And she was not about to let Brooke Logan take it away from her. She started the car, the engine's hum providing some relief from the turmoil of her thoughts. As she drove out of the driveway, her mind raced with ideas for a strategy. She couldn't change Ridge's heart just yet, but she could battle for her place in his life. She could remind him of what they once had and what they may still have. And if that meant confronting Brooke and exposing her as the manipulative woman Taylor thought she was, so be it. The journey to her office was a blur, with the city passing by in flashes of color and light. By the time she arrived, her tears had dried and been replaced by a steely resolve. She sat at her desk, her hands firm as she opened the laptop. If Ridge refused to listen to her heart, she would force him to listen to reason. She'd find a way to show him the truth about Brooke and make him realize his mistake. Taylor spent hours going through old emails and text conversations, looking for anything that could give her an advantage. She wasn't proud of it, but desperation had a way of wiping out pride. She reflected on her children, Steffy, Thomas, and Phoebe's memory, and the life they had created together as a family. She recalled Ridge's promises and the vows they had exchanged. She could not let it all go without a fight. Taylor had a strategy in place by the time the sun set, spreading deep shadows across her workplace. It wasn't perfect or nice, but it was hers. She'd approach Brooke directly, exposing every mistake, manipulation, and moment of vulnerability. If that didn't work, she'd turn to the only person who might still have influence over Ridge, his father, Eric Forrester. Eric had always been a voice of reason, a foundation in the Forrester family. If anyone could make Ridge see reason, it was him. Taylor would appeal to him not as a scorned ex-wife, but as a mother, a woman who had given her everything for the man she loved. She'd make him understand that not only her heart was at stake, but also their family's future. As darkness fell, Taylor stood and walked to the window to look out at the city. The lights of Los Angeles twinkled below, a reminder that the world went on, even when her own seemed to be crumbling apart. She took a long breath to steady herself. This was not over. Not yet. Taylor arrived at Forrester Creations headquarters early the next morning. Her stomach knotted with nerves. She dressed carefully, selecting a fitted suit that made her feel powerful and in control. She required every ounce of strength today. Brooke had already arrived, her appearance like a thunder cloud in the otherwise spotless office. Her laughter echoed through the conference room's open door, making Taylor's skin crawl. "Taylor," Brooke murmured, her smile fading as she saw her adversary approach. "I didn't expect to see you here." "I'm sure you didn't," Taylor said coolly but sharply. She walked inside the room, her gaze never leaving Brooke's. "We need to talk." Brooke raised her brow, but she refused to back down. "About what?" "Rich. Because if that's what this is about, I believe he's made his decision." The words hurt, but Taylor refused to let them show. "Oh, he made a decision, okay," she answered, her voice steady now. "But that's the wrong one. And I'm not going to let you destroy him again." Brooke's eyes sharpened, and the air between them crackled with the weight of their past. "You're out of line, Taylor," she remarked quietly. "This is not about you. It's about me and Rich. What about your future?" Taylor's chuckle was piercing and biting. "You do not have a future with him, Brooke. You've got a pattern. A pattern of deception, deceit, and taking down everything positive in his life. But I'm not going to let you do it this time." Brooke stepped closer, her rage rising. "You're delusional," she replied. "Rich loves me. He selected me. And no amount of jealousy or tears will change that." Taylor tightened her hands at her sides, refusing to back down. "We'll see about that," she responded quietly. "It's not over, Brooke." "Not by a long shot," Taylor said as she turned to depart, filled with determination. She had lost battles before, but not the war. And this time she was battling for everything: her love, family, and future. Rich might believe he'd made his decision, but Taylor wasn't done. She would fight for him and them with everything she had. And if it meant demolishing Brooke Logan in the process, so be it. According to the bold and the beautiful spoilers, Brooke Logan traveled to Italy in the hopes of changing her true love's mind. So why would Taylor Hayes let that same man, Rich Forrester, leave without her? Taylor assured Brooke's defending sisters, Donna and Katie Logan, that she trusts Rich. But it isn't the soapy point. Viewers from across the Atlantic witnessed the setup as they prepared for yet another of this soap's Money in the Bank location shoots, which provided spectacular results. The Italian sites have been satisfying as expected, with the established triangle between Rich, Brooke, and Nick Marone called into doubt. Brooke's destiny may be with Nick, who wishes to recommit to her. Ridge, according to Wagner's returning character, has never really committed to Brooke and is no longer with her. So what makes him a decent option? Eric Forrester was a sidewalk supervisor. Images of Eric Forrester, admonishing his adoptive son about Ridge's paternal sibling, Nick, may remind viewers of personality types they are familiar with. These are the people that assemble on the sidewalk to provide their strong opinions on how to tackle a summer house project without getting their hands dirty. Why didn't Eric go after Nick directly? Fans know Eric was capable of pickleballing his way out of a poor marriage with Quinn Fuller and replacing her with Donna. So he was more than capable of overseeing Forrester Creations' latest fashion spectacular, while also ensuring that Nick was held or misled by some of FC's fashion personnel. That did not happen, thus disaster awaits. Instead, Eric laments Nick's growth while instructing Ridge on what he should do before, during, and after the fact. Credit goes to McCook, who plays the Forrester patriarch on this fantastic show with renewed vigor. Taylor Hayes is to blame. Taylor just offered marriage to Ridge, which made him feel desperate. She felt nervous and worried Brooke's continuous influence, with Ridge agreeing to the request since he is willing himself away from Logan, as Eric correctly points out. The bold and the beautiful spoilers. Brooke has one good option. Taylor's decision makes no sense. Budig's character will only have herself to blame if Ridge convinces himself that the unfolding dramatic events in Italy are a call to change his life. Taylor will be devastated if Ridge breaks their engagement, which now appears possible. Brooke Logan takes a dip in the water. The Forresters and Brooke arranged a fantastic trip, which coincided with Nick's objectives. He was trying to persuade her to leave Ridge behind. Nick didn't expect the steering on the boat he was captaining to jam. Of course, Brooke was perched precariously on the back half of a boat, and took a dive in the stunningly blue lake. This is precisely why Taylor should have been with Ridge in Naples, Italy. But she wasn't, giving Ridge time to dwell over Brooke and Eric, which drew him back to a perceived love. Brooke sat on the edge of the couch, her fingertips tracing the faded fabric, while she glanced at the letter on the coffee table. It was a modest, unassuming packet, but the contents had changed her life. The offer was straightforward. A position in Seattle, a chance to start over, to leave behind the tangled web of her life in this small coastal town. It was, by all accounts, her only viable option. The only option that offered something other than the boring routine she had been stuck in for years. But taking it meant leaving everyone, including Taylor, behind. Taylor, Brooke's best friend since high school, had always been the irresponsible one, making decisions that made her shake her head. Like right now, Taylor's most recent decision was perplexing, resulting in their first major argument in years. Brooke couldn't wrap her mind around it. Why would Taylor, with her keen mind and limitless potential, choose to stay in this dead-end town, tying herself to a failing business and an obviously poisonous relationship? Did not make sense. It never has. Brooke had been debating her decision for 2 weeks after receiving the letter. Seattle was more than simply a job, it was a lifeline. The marketing firm had discovered her freelancing work online, a portfolio she'd compiled in between stints at the local bookshop and side gigs designing logos for small firms. The income was double what she was earning today, plus perks and a clear career path. It was the kind of opportunity that only came around once, especially in a city like here, where ambition seemed to wither under the weight of familiarity. However, leaving meant abandoning Taylor, who was plummeting in ways Brooke had never seen before. Taylor's resolve to stay was more than just stubbornness. It was anchored in something deeper, which Brooke couldn't quite grasp. They'd always been each other's anchor, the only constant in a world that changed too quickly. High school had been a whirlwind of late-night conversations, shared dreams, and vows to leave together. They intended to go to a city, any city, where they could pursue their dreams side by side. But sometime along the way, Taylor had stopped dreaming. Brooke stood and paced the small living room. The walls were loaded with images of her and Taylor at prom, smiling in large sunglasses on a road trip to Portland, and laughing at a beach campfire. Each image served as a reminder of what they had been, and could still be if Taylor only saw reason. Brooke's mind repeated last night's dispute, the words crisp and harsh. "You're throwing your life away, Taylor," Brooke cried, her voice quivering with rage. They were in Taylor's small apartment above the hardware store that her father had left her. The room smelled of sawdust and sadness, and the shelves were filled with unsold stuff that hadn't moved in months. "I'm not throwing anything away," Taylor said, her black eyes sparkling. "Brooke, this is my home. My family's legacy. Do you think I could just walk away from that? It is a failed business. You're drowning in debt. For what? To keep a store that no one shops in anymore? And don't get me started on Jake." Taylor's face hardened as she mentioned her boyfriend. Jake was charming when he wanted to be, but Brooke had seen how he spoke to Taylor, how he undermined her confidence. He was part of the reason Taylor was stuck and couldn't see the big picture. "You don't get it," Taylor remarked, her tone low. "You have always had one foot out the door, Brooke. Some of us do not have that luxury." The words hurt, not because they were true, but because they weren't completely false. Brooke had always been the planner, the one who looked beyond the horizon. Taylor was the heart, the one who felt everything intensely and refused to let go of the past. But this? Staying for a sinking ship and a man who does not deserve her? It was craziness. Brooke stopped walking and took up the letter again, her fingers brushing against the firm's embossed insignia. She saw herself in Seattle with a new apartment, new colleagues, and a life unconstrained by the limitations of this town. The concept of reinvention was alluring. But every time she imagined it, Taylor's face appeared in her head, her obstinate determination, her refusal to leave. She had tried to persuade Taylor to come with her. "We could start fresh," Brooke had pleaded over coffee at the cafe last week. "You could sell the store, pay off your obligations, and we could work things out together. Seattle is large enough for both of us." Taylor stirred her coffee, her gaze far away. "And what? Leave Jake? Leave everything my father built? You make it sound so simple. As if I could just pack up and forget who I am. You are more than this town, Taylor. More than Jake." Taylor laughed bitterly. You think I don't realize it's failing? I am not stupid, Brooke. However, running away does not solve anything. It just indicates you're giving up. That was the essence of it, wasn't it? To Brooke, leaving represented freedom. For Taylor, it meant capitulation. They were speaking different languages, and their dreams were no longer compatible. Brooke wanted to scream and shake Taylor until she saw the truth. Staying was the real surrender, a slow death of nostalgia and obligation. The clock on the wall ticked beyond midnight. Brooke slumped back into the couch, her head a jumble of shame and determination. She had always been the sensible one, making lists and weighing the pros and disadvantages. Seattle was a reasonable decision. Stay and she'd be trapped shelving books and scraping by. Her brilliance squandered in a town that didn't care. Go and she'd have the opportunity to create something real, something her own. The cost, however, was Taylor, the one person who had always been present, even when the rest of the world was not. She reflected about Taylor's life, particularly the missing bits. When they were kids, her father took pride in the hardware business, which was a community staple. However, online retailers and big box stores had decimated it, leaving Taylor with a legacy that was more burden than blessing. Then there was Jake, who had moved in with Taylor 6 months prior, pledging to help but offering little more than hollow promises. Brooke had noticed the late-night texts and Taylor's tight shoulders when his name was mentioned. Taylor remained devoted to a fault, certain she could cure everything. Brooke was distracted by her phone, which buzzed. Taylor texted, "Can we talk? I'm outside." Her heart fell. She approached the window and saw Taylor's shadow under the streetlight, hands jammed into her jacket pockets. Brooke opened the door, and the chilly night air rushed in. "You didn't have to come," Brooke remarked, moving aside to allow Taylor in. "I couldn't sleep," Taylor explained, her voice quiet. She appeared exhausted, her dark hair tangled and her eyes darkened. "I hate how we left things." "Me too." Brooke motioned to the couch, and they sat down, the letter remaining on the table between them. Taylor's gaze flickered to it and then away. "Are you actually going?" Taylor inquired, her tone resigned. Brooke gulped. "I've got to. It's not only about the job." Taylor nodded slowly, trying to understand. "I understand it. I do. But I can't simply leave Brooke. This house, this store. It's all I have left of him." Brooke recognized the reference to her father, who had been gone 3 years. The business was a tribute to him, but it was also a cage. "He wouldn't want you to give up your life for it," Brooke added gently. "You are aware of this." Taylor's eyes glistened. "Maybe. But it's not only the store. Jake too. I understand you don't like him, but he's trying. He's had a difficult time, and I can't simply abandon him." Brooke bit back her wrath. "Taylor, he is not good for you. You deserve better than someone who brings you down." "You don't know him like I do," Taylor responded sharply. "He's not flawless and neither am I. We're figuring it out." Brooke wanted to dispute, pointing out the late nights, the arguments, and Jake's unfulfilled promises. But she saw defiance in Taylor's eyes, the same tenacity that had always distinguished her. "Okay," Brooke finally replied. "But what about you? What do you want, not what you believe you owe everyone else?" Taylor turned away, her fingers twisted together. "I'm not sure anymore. I used to. I wanted to leave as planned." Brooke's chest wrenched as she realized she had betrayed everyone who had ever trusted her. She reached for Taylor's hand and squeezed it. "You are not betraying anyone by selecting yourself. You are permitted to want more." Taylor did not react, but her grip tightened. They sat silently, the weight of their decisions dominating the room. Brooke realized she couldn't make Taylor see what she saw, just as Taylor couldn't make her stay. They were at a crossroads where their paths diverged for the first time. "I'm leaving next week," Brooke explained quietly. "I'd like you to come with me. This is for you, not me. You could start over, Taylor." Taylor drew her hand away, her expression unreadable. "I need some time to think." Brooke nodded, though she understood what it meant. Taylor's decision had already been taken, motivated by loyalty and dread of change. Brooke didn't understand it, but she didn't have a choice. The next morning, Brooke began packing. Each item she put in a box seemed like a step toward the future, but also a step away from Taylor. She reflected on their disagreement, Taylor's inability to let go. Perhaps it was not about sense or logic. Perhaps it was about love, not only for Jake or the store, but for the life Taylor couldn't bear to leave. Brooke had not heard from Taylor by the time she was loading her car. She drove to the hardware store, hoping for one final chance to change her mind. The store was silent, and the sign faded. Taylor was standing behind the counter, sorting receipts, her face drawn. "I'm going out," Brooke announced, her voice catching. Taylor looked up, her eyes red. "I'm glad for you, Brooke." "Really?" Brooke wanted to say more, to implore Taylor to accompany her, but the words would not come. Instead, she hugged her for longer than she intended. "You know where to find me," she said. Taylor nodded and pulled back. "Take care of yourself." As Brooke drove away, the town receding in her rearview mirror, she felt a mixture of relief and sadness. Seattle was her only viable alternative, the path to a life she could shape on her own terms. Taylor's decision to stay, to cling to a life that no longer served her, continued to chew at her. It didn't make sense, but it might not have to. Maybe it was enough that they each decided what they could live with, even if it meant letting go.